Hello, thank you for joining today's executive webinar session on how to comply with ISO 9001 digitally in this digital age. We'll also have a chance to introduce you QDMS software to demonstrate how you can comply with ISO 9001 digitally. Today, I have my colleagues with me. I have Alex Kvartirov from Emirates Consulting, and I have Sam Watt from pre-sales software engineering team of Bimser International. We'll learn about fundamentals of ISO 9001 from Alex, and we'll also perform a demonstration for you to help you see how QDMS looks, how it feels, and how it helps to comply with ISO 9001. Before further ado, I'd like to invite Alex to our virtual stage to learn about fundamentals of ISO 9001. Alex, if you're ready, you can take over the screen. Let me make you the presenter.
Yes, sure. Okay.
All right, now you are the presenter. No, not yet. I'll try again. Okay. There it is.
Share.
Okay, perfect. Looks good. If you can make full screen.
Okay. Make it. Just trying to make it full screen. There we go. All right. So I think we can start.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you very much for joining this webinar, and thank you, Kevin, for inviting me. Today's topic is really a very, very high-level overview of ISO, the fundamentals of ISO, and that basically, I will address that later. There are many ISOs that are currently released, but this will be a very general presentation. And also I want to stress that it's very important to you can be ISO compliant in a digital environment. It's not a requirement of ISO. You can still maintain all of your records and documents in hard copies, but let me tell you, it's so much easier to work in a digital environment. So just before I start, just a very brief introduction about myself and my company, Emirates Consulting. I myself am a certified ISO 9001 lead auditor. And I've established Emirates Consulting back in 2015 after a career as a project manager in a large aerospace company that is certified to the AS 9100 quality standard. And the AS 9100 is the aerospace standard version of ISO. So currently I provide consulting services for various businesses to help them achieve and maintain ISO certification. And back in 2018, I became a Bimser solution partner because I was so impressed about the capabilities of one of their tools, namely QDMS, and how it can really help a business to manage all of the voluminous data associated with ISO. And I also present a number of webinars and lectures on various ISO topics. Okay, so what is ISO? Well, ISO really is a quality management system, QMS. And in effect, what it does, it forces the organization to be organized and take the customer requirements, which are the inputs, go through whatever processes have been designed and developed for the organization. And then, of course, you generate the output, which could be either a product or a service to a customer. And there's a number of policies and procedures that really guide how this whole quality management system is to be achieved and accomplished. And obviously the policies is, you know, what you're trying to do. So the most important thing is obviously meet customer requirements. You want to try to exceed the customer expectations. So you want to make sure that the customer is happy, because then he'll always come back to you. And another important policy of QMS is implement continuous improvement, and we'll talk a little more about that a little later. Now, if you go down to the next level, you have the procedures, is how you implement all of this. And they're, again, depending on your organization, you obviously will have documents and records. Records are really data that you collect as part of your implementing your processes. Then you also need to establish a corrective and preventive action process and internal audits. Those are required by ISO. So you want to make sure that you are following your internal policies and procedures. And then finally, responsibilities. Okay, organization is very important, and defining responsibility, who does what. In other words, what are the authorities? Not only do you have to assign the right personnel, but the personnel has to be trained to implement his specific task. There has to be an internal communication system so that everybody in the organization are aware of what's going on. And finally, everybody should know what the quality policy is. So those are very top level of what a QMS is all about. So there are 7 principles of quality management. And very briefly, I'll just talk about, you know, some of them. Customer focus, which I already discussed. Leadership. Without strong leadership of the organization, this really won't happen very effectively. The people have to be engaged. So the quality process has to be flowed down to all the levels of the organization. To implement successfully a quality management system, you have to have processes, and the processes have to interact effectively. And that's a very important part in developing your internal organization, and this really gives you a lot more efficiency within your organization. As I mentioned before, continuous improvement is a requirement. You always have to look at what can I improve, and we'll discuss that a little later about some of the techniques of doing that. Now, evidence-based decision making is very important. In order to decide what you want to improve and work on, you have to base it on data that's collected and not just making guesses as to, well, maybe it'll be better this way or this way. No, it has to be based on data that you collect as part of implementing your processes. And finally, of course, is relationship management. What it means is that management not only has to be involved with the organization, but they have to also be dealing with all the external forces, the customers, the investors, the regulatory agencies, the supply chain. And of course, right now, we all know that supply chain is a big issue. So management really has to be involved in a lot of areas. All right, mentioned before, this is a pictorial view of a quality management system, and this shows, I think, very well how the whole QMS is really functioning. Now, on the right-hand side, you see the clauses 4 through 10. Those are the ISO clauses. And the first 3 are basically definitions and introductions, but all the important requirements of ISO are paragraphs or clauses 4 through 10. And on the diagram, you see in parentheses the numbers, and these numbers really refer to the particular clause. So obviously, you have your inputs. So your inputs coming from customer requirements, from your organization and its policies, the context of the organization, and also from the needs and expectations of the interested parties. Now, all of that feeds into the planning stage, where you really plan whether you're developing a product or a service. But planning is a very important part. Part of planning is to evaluate risks in achieving your results. And then you move on to support and operation, which is clause 7 and 8. And this is where you execute your plan. And notice that into it feeds the supply chain. So obviously, if you're building a product and you're relying on material, you need to have the material on hand to carry out. Now, once you've complete your product, you then go through an evaluation phase. You evaluate through testing what are some of the maybe deficiencies, and also where you can improve certain things. An improvement may be making it cheaper. That certainly is an improvement. And in that particular bubble, performance evaluation, you also look at your customer feedback, because certainly whether it's good or bad inputs from the customer, you need to consider those to make your decisions on what improvements need to be made. And then once you've identified, and again, you base it on data, make a decision to make improvements, and then you go back to the planning phase to replan and add those particular changes or improvements that you've decided to do. So you stay in that loop basically forever, because you're in a continuous improvement cycle. So that's a called the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle, which was developed by Deming, and Deming was a quality guru. So I've just listed here some, they're not all there, but some of the most common ISO versions. And ISO 9001 is basically the parent ISO, which all the other ISOs have been structured in the same manner as ISO 9001, but each one is tailored for a particular specialty, and in effect, all the elements of ISO 9001 are taken, and then specific additional things are added depending on the particular application. You know, like for example, medical devices, you need to make sure that you maintain some sterile environment. Food safety, there's certain specific requirements. Aviation, like I mentioned before, where I was previously employed, AS 9100. Certainly for aviation, you need to have maintain a very high level of quality so that you minimize the number of failures in this environment. Okay, the next, let me get the next slide here. Okay, so why is ISO good for your organization? Well, obviously ISO is a worldwide standard. Okay, everybody knows, whether you're in China, India, or Europe, they know what ISO is. So it's worldwide, it's recognized worldwide. Also, it improves your customer satisfaction, because why it does that? Well, because you have established a quality management system. So therefore, your quality should be at a higher level. And if you're part of the supply chain, you have to deliver some products or equipment to your customer, they may require you to be ISO certified because they also ISO certified, and again, to improve their quality, they want their suppliers to maintain a high level of quality. And also, very important, it creates a continual improvement culture. You're never perfect. There's always room for improvement. And another important aspect of ISO is increases efficiency, because, as I already stressed, your decision-making process is much more organized. So you're now be able to take areas and improve certain functions based on real data rather than just guessing it. Your processes are much more integrated. So again, it's better efficiency, and this really leads into the lean thinking. So lean and ISO certainly very much related. And also the whole ISO mentality propagates to the entire organization. So you have the entire workforce involved, and they understand and appreciate the importance of a quality management system. So as a result, your revenues and profitability should improve, even though ISO is not directly involved with finances. But if you follow the ISO principle, you will see an improvement in your bottom line. Okay, as a final summary to my presentation, right now in the current environment, in the current environment of COVID, it's almost now 2 years since it's been impacting it. It's really made it more challenging, even though QMS, even without COVID, is a challenging proposition, but now it's really a lot more challenging. And the reason is that, well, you have a number of employees working remotely, and now you have to consider as well, how do you access the data, both documents and your records, when you're located remotely? Because you really have to have the same capability as if you're working on site. So bottom line is you need virtual control of all the QMS documents and records. And also, when audits are performed, sometimes it's difficult to get auditors on site. So doing audits remotely would be it's a very beneficial feature, but you need to have that capability. So also a remote workforce there are advantages, and even though hopefully COVID will go away someday, but the remote workforce will likely continue, because you have, you save on time commuting, and also you have a larger access to a labor pool. So in order to accomplish that, and by the way, whether you're going for ISO certification, or you may not be looking to be certified at this time, but just being ISO compliant, because the advantages is that now you're getting all of the recommendations from ISO how to structure your QMS. So it could be an advantage for your organization without going for full certification. But in any case, you may consider, and what I highly recommend is a software tool that supports a full digital implementation of ISO, and any ISO, whatever ISO you're looking to be compliant or certified to. QDMS that Bimser offers is an excellent tool to help you deal and manage with all of the excessive data that ISO generates. So Sam will get into give you some examples of the capabilities of the tool, and that completes my presentation. And I'm turning it over to Kevin. Thank you very much.
Alex, thank you very much for informative presentation as always. It was actually very helpful for us. So now we have the foundational information about ISO 9001 and continuous improvement in this digital age. Now I'd like to invite Sam somewhat to our virtual stage. Sam is our senior pre-sales software engineer at Bimser International from our engineering team. And just like Alex mentioned earlier, so based on what we learned from Alex, how you can actually digitize and perform your ISO 9001 requirements on QDMS software. Sam, if you are ready, please take over the screen.
All right.
Looks good. Thank you, Sam.
Anytime. And thank you, Alex, for your presentation. This is Sam, the Senior Pre-Sales Software Engineer of Bimser International based in New York. And in the following, I will demonstrate you QDMS, our quality, risk, audit, and compliance management system. And you may see how the system helps you manage your compliance or quality management activities, and also how you can enjoy the benefits while you're complying with ISO standard by using our system. Let's get started. As for QDMS, it is a web-based system, so you don't have to install any other application or local version of our system on your local drive, and instead, you can connect to your own QDMS by using any web browsers like Google Chrome, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, or Safari, you name it. So this is the homepage after you log into QDMS, and QDMS is a permission-based system. So you will see what you're supposed to do based on the permissions granted to your account. Different users have different permissions based on their role, position, profession, department, and group. I'm now logging in as the admin so that I have the full control of the system. And on my homepage after I log in, I can see all the pending tasks on this homepage. And I can connect to this particular request or task by opening the widget after I log in. And this is a notification feature that we have in QDMS. And you may find your pending task and also the request on your homepage. And also you will receive one in your email inbox. So this is two-way notification feature that we have in QDMS, and make sure you will not miss any important task by using our system. On the top left, this is the main menu of QDMS, and today we will get into the control document management module, the corrective action management module, and the audit management module. First of all, in this control document management module, it allows you to manage your documents, your control documents precisely, like your specification, procedures, procedures, specifications, training materials, and so on in our system, and you can manage it and start the revision process of your documents. Furthermore, you can manage your folder structure, and you can have different folder by department, locations, or even the teams. Once we have our folder ready and upload our document, we can find all your upload documents in this document tree. QDMS supports different document formats that you upload to the system, like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF, video, audio, and even image. You don't have to install any other software for reading your documents or for opening your documents. And instead, the upload documents can be opened in the built-in browser of QDMS, and you may read the document right away and open it within your web browser. You can also find the information of your documents in different tabs on the top provided in QDMS. And for example, like we can find the document code, the name, and also the revision date, the creation date. And with the permission, we can also get back to the previous version of our documents, or the previous version will not be deleted in our system, and actually they will be kept and saved in the back end. With the permission, we can always get back to the previous or show the previous version of our document, and we can tell what are the differences between two different versions. As I've mentioned in the beginning, QDMS is a permission-based system, so that we can also set up the permission settings to the user or user groups for our documents and folders. The permissions like reading, printing, revising, getting back to the previous version, or deleting the document, all those activities or actions can be restricted in our system or in this module. We can also find the distributionist, meaning which users or user groups will receive a notification once this document is updated or uploaded. We may also find the approval list, meaning like who are the approvers for this document, and in case we find something like has to be updated in the document, we can have an understanding who we should contact, like in the approval list, so that we have to contact, for example, my account, Bimser Int, and then update the document or share our comments with them. All the actions will be recorded in an archive of QDMS. So this is the audit trail that allows you to keep tracking and monitor what kind of actions that the user interact with your document. So all of this will be recorded with the name, the date and time, and also the action type. In QDMS, there is a reporting tool that allows you to generate different ready-made reports. For example, the document status report. And before we generate our report, you are more than welcome to set up certain criteria or conditions, saying, I want to see the documents, they are under revision and also those are published. Then we can make our searching. All your records will be shown in this list. You can export your report into PDF or Excel for sharing with any responsible parties. And if you notice on the top, we also have the search bars provided that allow you to have a quick searching. You can enter part of your keyword and your list will be updated accordingly. And next, let us get into the corrective action management module, as known as CAPA module. In this module, we can create different corrective action. And what you will see on the screen is all the corrective action records that we generate in this demo environment. And all of these records will be shown in different status, like open, review, and also saying like follow up, based upon the progress that we are handling this particular record. And as for what the information that we can manage in this particular module, what we can do is we can manage or record the non-conformity and also the detail of it. So all of this can be found in this report-like page. So we can open this particular record and see what kind of information that is contained in this record. And you may notice we can record the non-conformity, the description, and the category. So we will record it with the date and also the time that we open this particular record. In addition, we can also define the solution team, which is responsible for handling this non-conformity that we found. And this team has to file a first progress report in order to do the investigation and define the root cause, like why we are having this particular non-conformity. And then we can define the root cause and take our corrective action. As for the corrective action, is also recorded with the date and also the time, and also the action and the action performer. So the action performer has to perform this action and update the system that this action has been performed or completed. We can also find all the attachments that we attach along with this corrective action record. And at last, we can close the corrective action if there's no other follow-up action is scheduled. So that will be the flow that how we can manage the corrective action in QDMS. And when we create a new corrective action record, what you may see on the screen is where it's different fields for you to enter the data, meaning for data entry. Like we can enter the non-conformity description, and also we can assign it to a solution team, attach any document if there's any. And on the top, you can also find different tabs of those are not available at this moment because we are now creating a new record. And by the progress that we are handling this particular record, then you will be available to file a first progress report and define the root cause and schedule the corrective action accordingly and assign it to an action performer. So QDMS helps you to manage your non-conformity and also your corrective action step by step. So all of this record and also like managing this activities are well organized in our system. As I've mentioned, there is a reporting tool that allows you to generate different reports. For example, the corrective action report, corrective cause report, or corrective action follow-up action report. So those can be generated in our reporting tool. And at last, we come to the audit management module, which we can generate our audit plan. And as for the plan, it's like the goal that we want to achieve. For example, like internal audit or external audit. And yes, we can also manage the external audit by using QDMS, meaning we can audit the vendor, supplier, or the subcontractor. And as I've mentioned, like the plan is like the goal that we want to achieve. And seeing the internal audit plan, meaning we have to audit every single one in our company. And once we have this plan set up, and then we can create different items under this plan. And the items is like the objectives that help us achieve the goal, meaning achieve the goal as internal audit. So we can set up different items for sales department, for IT department, for logistic department, for shipping department, for example. And while we are creating the audit item, we can set up the date, the time, and the subject, what we are going to cover, and also who is or are the auditor of this audit, and also the auditee. Once we save it, and the auditor and auditee will receive a notification in their own QDMS account and also in their email inbox. And in QDMS, also we can pick and choose the questions as a reference to for the auditor, meaning the auditor doesn't have to spend his whole week for preparing the audit and also 5 pages of paper for auditing one auditee. And instead, we can manage all of this digitally by using our system, and we can pick and choose the question from our question pool and also record the answer from the auditee digitally by using our system. And as for QDMS, it has a native mobile application which is available for Android and iOS device. So that means we can also enjoy the benefit by using the smartphone or the tablet. You can download QDMS from the App Store or the Google Play Store. And once you download it, and then you can connect to your own QDMS and start enjoying the benefit. I'm going to connect my smartphone screen and mirror it on my computer. And this is how it looks like. This is my cell phone running an Android system. And after I log into the QDMS mobile application, I can find all my pending tasks on this homepage. And I can open this particular like module and see what kind of pending task that I have. And also like the audit that is waiting for, that I have to perform as the auditor. So I can find all these pending tasks on the homepage. And on the top left, this is the main menu of QDMS mobile. Like we can also manage the corrective action. And also like the audit, we can find like all the audit that we have to perform, and also scheduling the audit by using the smartphone or your tablet. It's come to the end of my demonstration of QDMS on a high level. Thank you very much.
Sam, thank you very much for the demonstration of QDMS. Let me take over the screen. And we can continue our session accordingly. Great. So as we saw during the demonstration session, we learned about how to manage documents for ISO purposes. We also had a chance to see how to perform corrective action operations digitally on QDMS, also audits, as well as reports and native mobile application. As demonstrated, QDMS is ready for ISO 9001 compliance in a digital environment. Some introductory information about our company and QDMS software. Bimser is a global enterprise software publisher since 1998. We are based in New York and we have global presence. And we offer QDMS and other proprietary software systems of ours actively. When we look at QDMS, we've been developing QDMS since 1998. It's a very mature system to help companies comply ISO 9001 and other compliance management systems. It has many benefits to use QDMS. It offers different benefits. For example, you can comply different quality management systems, especially you can comply ISO and other quality management systems, as well as federal, state, local, and other country-wide compliance requirements in a digital environment. You can digitize your quality management system for continuous improvement. You can follow up your tasks. System comes with reminders and notifications to get things going in terms of quality and compliance management. And you can comply with any quality management system digitally with the help of QDMS. As discussed earlier, that's a web-based system. You can access it from anywhere. And as Alex mentioned earlier, you may be working remotely. You may not be going to office every single day. This web-based architecture helps you connect QDMS from anywhere, whether you are from your home, whether you are traveling, no matter where you are, you can comply with QDMS easily. QDMS has advanced integration capabilities. It integrates with ERP systems, CRM systems, manufacturing execution systems, IoT devices, and many other modern business software systems can be integrated with QDMS to pull and push data or to automate business processes, so you can avoid double entry. And we have been active in many different industries. QDMS is basically vertical free. So you may be a manufacturing company, you may be in aerospace, you may be in automotive, you may be in aviation, for example, pharmaceutical, healthcare industry. You can use QDMS no matter what industry you're in to manage your ISO 9001 compliance, to manage your FDA compliance, HIPAA compliance, or any other compliance requirement can be managed on QDMS digitally. It has modules, so today during the demonstration session earlier, we talk about control document management, we talk about corrective action module and audit management module. We have more than 30 modules as discussed earlier briefly. We have risk management module, training, calibration management, instant management, for example, customer complaints, which may trigger corrective actions for continuous improvement. And there are many other modules available to help you manage your ISO 9001 compliance and to help you manage your quality management system digitally. Okay, great. So before we end our session, Alex, do you have any final remarks, any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yes, sure. I want to just expand a little bit on what Sam's presentation, because I think as being a manager or being a former manager myself, I can see how QDMS can really help in many areas. And QDMS is not just a repository of all the data. It certainly is, but in addition to that, it gives you tools to manage all of that. For example, as Sam demonstrated with the corrective action process, now in my own experience, you have to make a correction. Let's say there's a problem with a product that you deliver to the customer, and you have a certain deadline that you have to return the item to the customer. You create an internal plan, and the plan is not being followed, and not until the customer now starts to raise complaints to management does any action happen. Here, QDMS actually helps you manage, let's say, a corrective action process, and if the deadlines are not met, the internal milestones are not met, it reports that to management, so that management can take action before the customer gets upset and starts to complain. So it's a very, very powerful tool, and from my own experience, I really want to stress some of its amazing capabilities. So that's really my point.
Alex, thank you very much again for your insights, for your thoughts, and helping us understand the fundamentals of ISO 9001. Much appreciated. Before we end our session, you are invited to our Synergize 2022 Annual Virtual Summit and Conference. It's our annual virtual conference that we organize every year. So you are invited, and you can register on our Eventbrite page, which is, when you go to Eventbrite, you can search for Bimser International, and you can access to our site, and you can register. Also, we have a pretty active YouTube channel that you can actually connect, and you can actually see our videos, so that you can see and learn about digital transformation, manufacturing 4.0, digital quality management, and so on. So that we have many informative and helpful videos available on our YouTube channel. I'd like to thank you for your time, and thank you for your interest, and looking forward to seeing you at our coming executive webinar sessions. Thank you, and have a nice day.